What's going on, everybody? My name is Terminus, and today we're gonna look at 𝐸𝐴𝐏 no Frieren episode 27. A couple of days ago I actually had some trouble with my mic, and it wasn't all that great. I have two recordings, one of them being Made in Abyss Season 2 Episode 9, where I have, unfortunately, some like electric crackling in there, and I couldn't really reduce it with anything. Unless he wanted everything else to sound like shit. But it wasn't too problematic. I don't think it's too grating, but probably a couple of people who are more audio sensitive won't listen to it. So I'm very sorry for that, but that's just how it is. I can't change it either. I had to listen to that for hours while I was editing that thing, but I do hope that now it's actually gone. I'm gonna check it even later on when I actually find the time in between, like recording this pre-discussion and the actual reaction. But hey, welcome. I hope you all doing okay. We are at the penultimate episode of Frieren, and it's like I said before, it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of exciting because we're probably going into season 2 at some point in time. It's gonna be a couple of years maybe, but with the success that Frieren had and with how well it was done in general. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of masterpieces of anime out there, and Frieren is not the only one, which is really, really good. And some people might be saying it's overhyped, and yes, maybe it is. Everybody and their mother have been reacting to it, and everybody has been talking to it, but it's also just the fact that it has consistent quality going in, and it has a lot of themes that a lot of people can relate to. And I do 100% understand why Frieren is such a phenomenon this season, and why it is considered one of the best anime that came out in recent times, especially in like the fantasy genre, where there's not been that much going on in the last decade almost, I would say. I mean, yes, we did have the rise of isekai, but isekai does not equal fantasy, and pure fantasy like in Frieren, it's incredible. And it has a premise that has been done before, yes, but has been done very well here and hasn't been done too frequently in the past. So we can have a lot of interesting discussions going on from that. But yeah, without further ado, we're gonna look into what happened last episode. And we are going to, I'm just gonna check if my desktop audio is working well. I do think it is. Nice. And we're just gonna go through it a little bit, right? We did have that repeat of 𝐸𝐴𝐏 who has been throwing back that thing at us where she's like, well, it's gonna be the age of humanity. And honestly, yes, it is. And I was talking a lot about how prejudice works in the last episode, but I want to make it clear that I don't believe that 𝐸𝐴𝐏 here is just racist or extremely prejudiced. I do think she has that kind of elitist thinking. We have been talking about this in the past, and I do believe that a part of her is looking down on humans to a degree. But we have that other part of her, which was the teacher of Flum, and obviously she had to have seen something in Flum to be willing to teach her. Flum was a talent, a genius, right? As we have had mentioned multiple times within this season of Frieren, especially also in the Demon arc, where 𝐏𝐢𝐏 was talking about it, where we were talking about geniuses, and sometimes an incredible spell by a genius is better than anything that comes hundreds of years after that. And Flum was that kind of genius, and also that kind of person that wanted to bring magic to everyone. And we do have kind of contradicting actions of 𝐸𝐴𝐏, right? On the one hand, she is very adamant on being like, oh well, Flum died, I guess I didn't care about her. And on the other hand, and she's saying like, I won't fulfill her goals, I'm not gonna play to her tune, that is not what I want. It's almost like a child throwing a fit, right? When something happens that they don't really want to happen. And on the other hand, we do have that aspect of her that does found the Continental Mage Association that is mostly comprised of humans at this point, and gives new promising human mages powerful spells and grants them knowledge that they didn't have before. So the question is, what is she? And I do think the answer lies somewhere in between, right? Because on the one hand, she might have that thinking of, yeah, humans might, or most humans are not worthy of magic, and I don't want everybody on the street corner to be able to learn magic or whatever, which in my opinion is kind of a toxic way to think, right? And also a way to, like, maybe her trying to reject this new age coming. But on the other hand, she does have that part of herself that we do see glimpses of, where we clearly realize that Flum dying doesn't go past her completely. It doesn't. She definitely feels something there, but shuts it out immediately, distances herself from it, right? She was like, I only taught her on a whim. Yeah, I do think we have seen this behavior probably in a lot of media before, where you do put your distance between somebody you knew who possibly died, right? And yourself, in order to not get hurt yourself. And maybe from the get-go she did have this attitude because she, like I said, the last couple of episodes, she's gotten used to these kinds of moments where she loses people that she's known. And at this point, that is just her normal coping and defense mechanism of just shutting everything out and trying to just not catch feelings at all. But we do see in the little moments when she fondly remembers, or maybe kind of hesitantly remembers, Flum as she's walking past her, like she's really there, right? Like it just happened 2 days ago or something. The little Flum strolling past her, going to a field of flowers, and she's reciting her favorite spell, and she's saying, "This is stupid, you're stupid." She's stupid. But it doesn't sound convincing now, does it? I do think both of these things are aspects of herself. We talked about it in 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐪's case with sadism and actually being empathetic and putting up a mask, but the mask is part of who you are. So some aspect of your personality, some aspect of who you are is kind of resonating with that. And I do think in 𝐸𝐸's case it's similar, right? Some aspect of who she is resonating with what she's saying here, but at the same time some other aspect of herself is hurting for Flum's death, being afraid of the new age coming, right? But also seeing the potential it holds, right? This constant back and forth, this like being split between two things. On the one hand, I don't want things to remain stale, right? Because they're boring if they're stale. We do know that, at least to a degree, that 𝐸𝐸 is a person who does like a challenge, who does like competition, right? Who does like going up against people who are strong. That is something Flum called out when they were talking, when Frieren met her for the first time, and when they were talking about how Frieren is different and doesn't have that ambition and maybe is better for an age of peace. And the other side of her doesn't want that change, right? She's maybe even morally afraid of things changing because she doesn't know where she will stand in the world once things have changed, right? And how the world will look. And I think that resonates with a lot of us as we're growing older. We're understanding that there's a lot of things that is coming up that we might initially not understand. Now, I haven't met a single problem or a single thing or kind of technology or knowledge that has been coming up in the last decades that has ever overwhelmed me to the point that I wasn't able to kind of find my way in it once I gotten myself buried in the subject matter. And I do think that applies to most of the things that are coming our way, even if we feel overwhelmed, if we feel like, oh, this is too much, like how am I ever gonna understand this? If you are interested and once you put your mind to it, you're actually gonna be able to figure it out, at least to a degree, depending on who you are, what skills you have, right? But you bury yourself in it, you're gonna be in it, you're gonna understand it to some degree. And it's not as scary, 90% of the time it's not as scary as it feels in the beginning, but that doesn't change the fact that it feels that way in the beginning, right? It's something threatening to us. It's something that we feel uncomfortable with. And I do think that 𝐸𝐬𝐏 is a very complex character, and I'm not able so far to completely map her out, because how could you, right? With a lifespan that goes thousands of years, with so much experience, you can't just say, okay, this is what she did in life and this is who she is. I mean, it's easier to say that about a person who's 30 years old or 50 or 60 years old, than to say that about a person who's lived 10 times that, right? 10 lifetimes. But yeah, very, very interesting, all in all. We do continue once again with amazing animation. It's incredible how this series just keeps keeping us on our toes with the with the black hole kind of thing that we're seeing here, sucking in all the power. We do see these amazing shots, right? The cloak being kind of being pulled up, and then we do see just one side of her face, which is an amazing visual, and that gets replaced by a shadow, so it's almost the same, but we do have a slight change where you can see kind of like the second eye coming through. And we're playing with wind, we're playing with little rock particles, everything's getting pulled in here. And we do have this amazing, almost like the effect we're using for the magic with the negative space, but instead of blue-black, it is red-orange, like a supernova or some kind of thing, like an event horizon. And we're going in there. We have so many moving pieces in these shots. They really went hard on the animation here, and I do absolutely love it. It all comes down, right? At first it just sucks at everything in, and then it releases the energy. And we do have this incredible shot of Frieren in just a second, of her hair flowing across her face, and she just looking down on her with that cold gaze, which is, yeah, I mean, incredible. It's a spectacle to see, and I do absolutely love it. Again, the callback to the elemental or animate earth or whatever you want to call it is also really cool. We do see the impact of every shot as the camera shakes. We do see these lightning plasma effects going on. these beams being put back and forth with the lightning coming off of them. And then all of that mass fan is trying to make her way through and flying and trying not to get hit by stray bullets, stray energy there. And there, right, we have all this energy is get pulled back in. First person point of view of the projectile. Well, not projectile, but beam in this case. Easy defense, but yeah, I mean, again, we're playing with light and shadow here. How all of these particles are flying. The dust is being kicked up, and we do have this shining light in the middle here. So much stuff happening in this episode. We got like the confrontations of the different counterparts, and some of them I did put down correctly. Some of them I didn't. I think I did confuse 𝐏𝐻's double with herself in one of the shots, because it kind of looked like it almost. It would make sense that 𝐷𝐷 is very good against 𝐏𝐻, because 𝐏𝐻 seems to be more like a wizard kind of mage who is very much about hypnosis, immobilizing somebody and shooting the big guns from the back, while 𝐷𝐷 is very quick. Right, she can cross the distance very, very fast. I do wonder why she had such an easy time, like 𝐏𝐻, why she had such an easy time against the Frieren duplicate, but I guess we'll never know, or at least we won't know right now. Sense being very powerful, we do see that with, like, especially just the way they describe it, right? That there are so many moving pieces in Sense's magic that it is very hard to keep track of it in general. So not a lot of magic is applicable. 𝐸𝐏 being our absolute joke, literally kind of the Joker character, and our Joker in this specific encounter, because she just manages to five-head it. No, actually the opposite of that, right? She just doesn't think about it. She's like, you know what? You just have to do it with feeling. Sometimes overthinking things is gonna put you in a position where you just won't be able to do it. But she does do it to a ludicrous degree, and this is amazing. Like, this is an interesting character trait where she's like, I'm not stupid, but sometimes you just gotta do it, right? Sometimes you just gotta visualize it, and it works. And I do feel like art is like that a lot of times, right? There's a lot of bright and intelligent people out there. They can tell you everything about how a shot is compositioned, how direction is being taken, right? What angles to put something into for maximum effect. You ask them to do it, not everybody might be able to do it, even if they know the theory. But then you ask somebody else, right, who is an artist, who works more with feeling, right, who has practiced something hundreds of times, but also has maybe a little bit of a natural talent for it, right, has a feeling for it, had that from the get-go, and the artist is gonna put down a masterpiece of a painting, and you're like, how did you do that? They're like, well, I don't know, I just did it, it felt right. And I feel like this is kind of what 𝐸𝐏 is like, although we have the added, right, we do have the added focus on imagination. Imagination as in, I can visualize it. And she is very good, supposedly, at visualizing things that are even things that might not necessarily be logical, because as Sense explains, technically, in most cases, for most mages, what should be the case is that if something is ludicrous, it is not imaginable, and the general, like the way Sense's magic works with her hair and all of the defensive barriers being around it, more like the traditional mage defensive barriers, 𝐸𝐏 just circumvents that. She's like, I don't see any barriers. This is why I had like the idea, or why I did have the theory at first that 𝐸𝐏 either doesn't or can just shut off visualizing and perceiving magic, right? And with magic, I'm talking about like the raw magic energy, right? The energy beams and the defensive shields and whatnot. But yeah, cool stuff. The 𝐏𝐲𝐽 is a very interesting creature. I do wonder if we gonna meet something like the 𝐏𝐲𝐽 again. If that is a type of demon, or if it's a unique one, or if it was a unique one, I mean. Again, back to the Frieren fight. Amazing stuff. We do have the key of trust here, right? Being like, I'm gonna show the biggest opening you'll ever see, and I'm gonna get hurt, and then you're gonna defeat me because I am underestimating you. And she took a good look at herself and knew that this was the thing to do. And we do have that impressive scene still. This is an amazing shot. Like, this is a thumbnail kind of shot. Beautiful, gorgeous, and powerful. The staff is broken. I do wonder if we get a new staff on Fan, or if she's just gonna repair it with magic or something. But yeah, the last throes of a dying Frieren, and you know, a caged beast, a cornered beast, is the most dangerous of all, isn't it? And we do have that trust rewarded. We're gonna dispel it, everybody's gonna exhale, and we have that last moment of relief and comedy as Frieren can't stop being Goblin. Frieren is just going to get chowed down by a mimic. And this is where we end it. What is the third test, right? I don't know, like, I did assume there is a third test. At least I think we've heard that in the previous episodes. So yeah, how's that gonna go? Are we gonna meet the big boss? Are we gonna meet 𝐸𝐴 now? Let's wait and see. So I didn't do that in the beginning. Maybe should have done that, but Friends, if you do like my videos, if you do appreciate what I'm doing, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, maybe share it with people who you know or do like watching reactions and whatnot. I am always happy to see more people coming in and watching these reactions. I don't know, not every episode, especially after Frieren. I've been putting them out very consistently the last couple of weeks to get them out in time to actually somewhat within like the week get it done with episode 28 and whatnot, and be very timely in that manner. I always appreciate you commenting, subscribing, liking, whatever. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon, yada yada. I also do have a buy me a coffee now. It's not coffee. Most of you probably know coffee, but it's like it's almost the same, right? It's another page, like a competitor. For all of you who feel like maybe Patreon isn't something you can do, I do know a couple of countries have trouble with Patreon. So if you do feel like Patreon isn't for you or it doesn't work for you, then maybe that is an option if you do feel like supporting me. Yeah. But without any further ado, I think we're just gonna get into the episode and enjoy what's here. Frieren episode 27 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1. Haven't we been here before? Alright, alright. I wasn't sure. I was like, is this the wrong episode? No, what's up, Frieren? Come on. Here we go again. What's going on, fan? Come on. Just be the amazing thing. What are you on about? I'll be missing this intro, actually. I think the next series we're gonna watch, at least in this slot, might not have that much of a musical and optimistic sounding intro as this. But you know. An era of humans. Alright. Yeah, what's happening? Alright, so what's with your stuff? But she has attachment to her staff. Yeah. I know how she feels. Isn't there a way to incorporate the old staff into a new one? She ain't gonna make fun of her. Oh, careful, don't act cute with her. She might pull your hair again. Oh no, she's not in the mood. Oh, that is cute. That is cute. It's low poly Frieren. Look at that. Alright, she's gonna try and get the staff repaired after all. Stop being a baka, Richter. They're both being very nice to him. Yeah, he's that kind of person who sees it that way. Internalizing it. True.
そうか。ま、落ちたのが俺でよかったんじゃないか。一級試験は3年に一度。電検、お前みたいな老いぼれに3年後はないかもしれない。
Alright, there you go, Richter. Banter.
言い返せ。
But we do care about one another, don't we?
生意気な若造だ。をバカにし、目的のためなら弱者を足毛にすることもいとわない。なのにわしはお前に何の剣をも抱いていない。きっと昔、わしがそういう生意気な若造だ。
He can relate.
そんなわしが今は宮廷魔法使いの地位にいる。何が言いたい？そう悲観するなということ。
You got a long way to go, Richter.
よりずっと強くなっている。ラーフェン、帰るぞ。
ごめんね。じいさん不器用なんだ。
Nah, I think he is very good with people.
結局何も買ってかないの。
Just window shopping, nothing more. And Frieren's gonna go, man, yeah.
今日は薬日か何かなのか。
ここならどんなに壊れた杖でも修理できるんだよね。
It's bad.
あの物体はなんだ。まさか杖なのか。こんなゴミをよこされても困る。
ゴミじゃないよ。
少しは気分が良くなっていたが、お前のせいで最悪な気分。
Oh, aren't you a crouchy little crouch, Richter? Holy shit.
ことを選ぶ権利はある。この杖は諦めろ。
そう。できないならいいや。
Oh.
イレン、お前は本当に金を触るやつだ。俺がいつできないとまで言った。
He just doesn't want to do it. Oh, that is beautiful.
第三次試験には間に合わせたいから。
無茶を言いやがって。
It's like a puzzle.
ゴミだなんて言って悪かった。手入れの行き届いたいい杖だ。
Yeah, there went a lot of care into that. She's comfort eating. No. I do love the lights, like the blue lights of the magic town.
そんなの俺だってわかんねえよ。やめてよ。俺に当たらないで。
The wrong thing to say, Stark. The wrong thing to say.
わかろうとするのが大事だと思うんだよ。
She does understand you better than you think.
ああ、お前、フリーレンとこの弟子か？
そうだよ。
ま、どっちでもいいが、二次試験が終わったばかりだっていうのに、今日はお前の師匠のおかげで散々だった。いっそのこと慎重してくれた方がこっちも儲かるってのにな。大事にしろよ。
It's weird how we hold on to some things, right? But there's so much feeling in a little thing that's not even alive. But it connects us to people, it's...
フリーレンは感情や感性に乏しいでしょう。でも一つだけいいこともあります。その分だけとフリーレンはあなたのために思い悩んでくれる。彼女以上の死はなかなかいませんよ。
Look at her. Yeah, I mean, even if she doesn't understand, which is not always the case, it doesn't mean that she doesn't care or worry. I do assume, like, the third test's probably gonna be next season. Unfortunate, but...
フリーレン様。何？いえ、やっぱりね。
Say it! Say it, fan!
そう。
Just fucking say it!
これより第三次試験を始めます。
Oh, okay. We're gonna start right now. Alright.
私がここまで出向いたか理由はわかるか？全然。
Frieren?
だんまりか。第二次試験の合格者は12名。異例の合格者数だ。多すぎる。全員協力型の試験は大いに結構。旧魔法使いには協調性がないからな。だがその中にあってはならないほどの実力を持った者が。
And that's why she can't pass the test.
フリーレン様ですね。
おかげで実力に見合わない者まで大勢合格した。
Stop being a baka.
そいつらは全員死ぬことになる。それはお前の望みとは。
What do you mean it would kill all?
それに私とてそこまでの無駄死にはさすがに望んでいない。
Make a proper test then.
すべてフリーレンが。
Yeah, sure.
異例には異例を。第三次試験は私が担当する。
Oh, you just want to be involved.
平和的に選別してやる。従来の担当はお前だったな。
Ah, that's Lennon, okay.
ゼイリエ様のわがままは今に始まったことではありませんから。
He's like, do whatever you want, you don't do it anyway.
フリーレン様を試すような器ではありません。一目見てわかりました。彼女は魔力を制限しています。
Ooh, that is interesting that he can tell.
巨大な魔力です。ゼイリエ様に匹敵するほどの。
And she doesn't suppress it.
ファルシュ、気がついたか？
いえ、何の話だか。あの魔力は制限されたものとは思えません。
We had that topic before.
の魔力の揺らぎもなかった。この揺らぎは魔力を持った生物である限り消せるものではありません。仮にそれが可能だったとしても途方もない時間が必要でしょう。
She's got the time. She had the time.
その実用的でない技術にフリーレンは生涯を捧げた。
She knows that from Flum.
欺くために。魔族は私たち人類よりもはるかに魔力に敏感だ。100年や200年制限したところで欺けるものじゃない。まさに時間の無駄だ。その時間を別の鍛錬に使えば何倍も強くなれる。
If you say so.
その非効率が相手の隙を生み出すこともある。相手の魔力を見誤るというのは死に直結しかねない。
What is it about feet? Come on.
年の割には技術の甘い魔法使いだが、そうやって魔族を打ち倒してきた。それほどまでにフリーレンの魔力制限は洗練されている。それをたった一目で見破ったのは魔王だけだ。
You know that much, okay.
この瞬間まではな、レルネ。
偶然です。偶然わずかな揺らぎが見えた。
I don't know, Lennon. Kinda sus.
実だ。お前が最初の一級魔法使いになってから半世紀が過ぎた。お前は臆病な坊やのままだな。それだけに残念でならん。これだけの境地に立っておきながら追い先はもう短い。フリーレンと戦うことはこの先一生ないだろう。それがたとえ勝てる戦いであっても。やはり人間の弟子は取るものではないな。
And yet you do.
本当に残念だ。
I don't like that.
結局あの子にも見えなかったか。私の魔力の揺らぎが。
Oh, we're hinting at that she has a lot more.
内容は大魔法使いゼーリエによる面接です。
ゼーリエは私とフェルンを受からせる気はないね。
お知り合いなんですか？
昔のね。多分直感で合格者を選ぶつもりだろうね。でもゼーリエの直感はいつも正しい。現に私は未だにゼーリエが望むほどの魔法使いには慣れていない。
So this is a battle of ideologies, is it? I don't know if Kana will pass. Thinking about it. Oh, and we see the greenhouse. Okay, I was gonna wonder when it's gonna show up. Beautiful. But is it more than superficial beauty?
不合格だ。帰れ。
Oh, that is harsh.
理由を聞いてもいい？
今もお前は私の魔力に恐怖を感じている。一級魔法使いになった自分の姿がイメージできないだろう。魔法の世界ではイメージできないものは実現できない。帰れ。不合格、不合格、不合格。
She's gonna fail them all, isn't she?
フリーレン、お前も一級魔法使いになった自分の姿をイメージ。
And there's gonna be back talk here.
だが他の受験者とは異なる理由だ。
Yeah, okay, I mean, at least she's not gonna front that.
合 合格を出すとは微塵も思っていない。
Mm-hmm.
でしょ。一度だけチャンスをやる。好きな魔法を言ってみる。
花畑を出す魔法。
Somebody else's.
フランメから教わった魔法か。実にくだらない。不合格だ。
そう。
She didn't care about it in the first place, right?
愚弄されたのに食い下がりすらしないのか。
It's not worth it.
ような魔法使いが魔王を倒したとは到底信じられん。
And yet she did.
私一人の力じゃないよ。アイゼン、ハイター、私。
仲間に恵まれたか。運が良かったな。
そうだよ。運が良かった。
But didn't she make her own luck in a way?
どうして私を仲間にしたの？
強い魔法使いを探していたからね。
それならオートにいくらでもいるでしょ。
君がいいと思ったんだ。
なんで？
フリーレン、君は覚えていないだろうけど。
Ooh, okay.
昔僕は一度だけ君と会った。
More interesting things.
覚えていない。
子供の頃、森に薬草を取りに入った時、道に迷った。夜の森をさまよって、人生で初めて孤独を味わった。もう二度と村に帰れないかと思ったよ。
And she saved him.
一人のエルフが人里の方向
Oh, she didn't even. She just said there. It's that way.
方向を教えるだけで励ましの言葉一つ口にしなかった。なんて冷たい人だと思ったよ。僕のそんな不安を感じ取ったのか、それともただの気まぐれだったのか。君は僕に花畑を出す魔法。
And she doesn't remember it. Interesting. She looks a younger in this shot.
生まれて初めて魔法が綺麗だと思った。
偶然に過ぎないことだけれども、ヒンメルたちと出会わせてくれたのは先生が教えてくれたくだらない魔法だよ。それからゼーリエ、フェルンも同じように不合格にするつもりだろうけれども、多分それはできないよ。あの子はゼーリエの想像を超えるよ。人間の時代がやってきたんだ。
Alright. It all hinges on Fen.
何が想像を超えるだ。私の魔力を見て立ちすくんでいる。他の受験者と何ら変わらん。
Is she though? Oh, she's seeing the fluctuations.
お前、何が見えている？
Ooh. Isn't she?
揺らいでいる。
フェルンとか言ったな。お前、私の弟子になれ。
No, thank you. I already got an elf.
嫌です。
私ならお前をより高みへと連れて行ける。
No ambition.
魔法使いがたどり着いたことのないほどの高みへ。
それは合否と関係があるのですか？
あるかもしれない。
そうですか。ゼーリエ様。
フェルン、頼む必要はないよ。私がゼーリエに何を言っても不合格になるように、フェルンは何を言っても。
Ooh. Okay, is she right?
ゼーリエの直感はいつも正しいから。
Alright.
私はフリーレン様の弟子です。
フリーレンの入れ知恵だな。私は有望な魔法使いを見逃すほどバカじゃない。合格だ。
She passes as the only one, maybe. I don't.
次。
Maybe Denken?
And,
Maybe Denken passed. I don't know. Because he's strong, right? Like, we had the three people. Denken, Fen, and Frieren, where the duplicates were the real problem, right? And Sansa, of course, but she's already first class. Very, very puzzling, right? Hard to work through. Sounds like a celebration, doesn't it? Okay, I guess we're talking about it in a second. It's very hard to I think I need to process that first, right? Because it was a lot of stuff not being said, a lot of subtle context, right, that we can read into maybe, and maybe not. I'll see you back on YouTube. Alright, I think I'm ready to talk about it. We don't need to talk about old man saying the same things over again and start being like, what the fuck is this dude on about? Come on. Watch him actually being like some legit martial arts teacher or something. Fan is in a bad mood again, and we do have the conflict between Frieren and Fan going up again, right? She's like, Mommy doesn't understand me, right? She said it's better to get a new one. And Frieren didn't mean it like that. She was like, look, realistically, it's in a million pieces. A new one might be better, but obviously, there's a lot of meaning we attach to things, right? I mean, there's a reason why a lot of people, like, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's your headphones, right, or your mouse that is like 10 years old and kind of working wonky, but you're like afraid to get a new one because the new one might not feel right, or maybe because you got it from someone. In the case of Fen, right, where she got her staff from 𝐸𝐬𝐿, and it's a lot of her history, right? It's a lot of what's deep inside of her, right? 𝐸𝐸𝐿 and all of this time when she was young and starting to be a mage that defined her as a person. And she's hanging on to it, right? There's an emotional connection that we ascribe to things that we possess, right? Things that are with us in our everyday lives. Especially if they're in our lives for a long time. Like you build your own PC and you're attached to it. When something breaks, you're like, yeah, maybe I can afford it right now, but it feels like you lost something, some part of yourself, because it's been such an integral part of your life. And it goes for a lot of other things too. And I think Frieren understands that, otherwise she wouldn't have, like, sure, they kind of got into an argument, and then Frieren is like, I don't think that them just getting into an argument would have been enough for Frieren to go let it get repaired. If that kind of makes sense to you. That is my opinion, of course. It's not necessarily true, but I do think that for Frieren, maybe that point of argument was just the confirmation for her, because she was like, okay, she's probably emotionally attached to the staff, right? That is something, in my opinion, that Frieren probably already had on her radar, but she was like, oh, maybe get another one, right? It's easier to do so, right? It's the practical thing to do. And when she gets pushback from Fen, she's like, yeah, I mean, I figured, but guess I gotta go and get it repaired. And yeah, maybe she also tried to just protect her, right? Because there's the possibility that she's like, okay, I'm gonna get it repaired for you, and then she's bringing it to somebody, and that somebody's like, no, it's unrepairable, it's not possible, right? I can't do it. And then you couldn't find anything, and now we're in trouble, right? Because the third exam is gonna come up. But yeah. And here we have the opposite reaction of what we're used to, right? Kanne and Lawine, and normally it's like one of the two is kind of prodding the other one, and then they're gonna get into a fight. But this time it's different. She's very weak and she feels very vulnerable, and she just wants somebody, in this case her best friend, to be there for her. And yeah, that's what's happening here. She allows it in the moment of like vulnerability. Sometimes that's just what happens, right? We're so down and on ourselves, and we're like, you know what, let's forget our like senseless pride and stupid games. I just want to be comforted, and sometimes that's just what we need. She's going around and searching for somebody to repair it. It's gonna arrive at Richter at some point, but before that we see what Richter has been dealing with. This old man bugging him the whole time, just not leaving, not even buying anything from him, keeping him busy despite him having work to do. despite them not having any connection, but they do, and Richter is a little bit like 𝐸𝐸𝐹, and I do feel maybe that was why the two of them were kind of like at odds in the one test, and then together in the other test, and it's kind of almost like he like in terms of age he could be the father, 𝐸𝐸𝐹 could be the daughter, right, and Laufen, and Denken could be the grandfather, right? And this is kind of the dynamic we got going here. He's like, I'm in a terrible mood, but people have to work and make a living no matter how foul their mood is. And yes, that's true. Sometimes. I think Richter can afford it, right? He looks like the kind of person who could afford it. But I think he's also the kind of person possibly who loses himself in his work. Whenever he's got trouble, right? Uses that in a way to process things in the background while he's keeping busy. Because it's a good feeling to keep busy and feel like you've done something in your life, right? Even if other things, like other aspects of your life, are kind of in shambles right now. But Denken is there for Richter, and he wants to be there for him because he kind of relates to him, right? He says like, I used to be an insolent youngster too. He sees himself in Richter, and he tells him, look dude, you got time, right? 3 years, you got enough time, you're gonna be even more powerful, you're gonna be able to make it. Don't worry about it. And what's your relationship with Denken? Well, she just accepts it, right? He reminds her a little bit of maybe of her grandfather or whatever. And in a way, we all find our way to one another, right? We all meet each other, and he's like, it's today my unlucky day. First this idiot old man Denken, and now Frieren's gonna come strolling in, but she wants something repaired, and he's like, come on, that staff, it's completely broken, you better give up on it. And she turns around, she's like, okay, if you can't do it. He's like, look here, I never said I can't do it. And I mean, Frieren knew what she was doing by saying that. And he's apologizing after it's been emotional. He's like, you know what, I'm sorry. It's a beautiful staff. I can see that somebody has been taking really good care of it. And he has an eye for these things, right? And it's a beautiful thing, right? This mending magic. It looks really cool, right? He has to piece all the little tiny pieces of the puzzle together and maybe replace one or two tiny little pieces, because realistically, how realistic is it that they got every little tiny splinter of the staff? But yeah. He's getting it together. And Fan is eating away her worries. She's eating away. He's like, I'm crouchy, and like Richter, right? Most of them are crouchy, but she's crouchy because she lost her staff and got in the fight with Frieren, and some of the other ones are crouchy because they lost the test. But yeah, she's like, I'm gonna eat my fill. I need that. Fan, you better watch out, okay? Like, you gotta work out with Stark a little bit. Don't keep eating just to relieve your stress. Yeah, and we have the theme again. Mom doesn't understand me at all. I do love the like I said, the lights, the blue lights are giving this town a really magical mood, right? This is perfect atmosphere setting for the kind of location we're in. And he's like, you know, Fan, sometimes I don't get you either. And she's like, how could you? I'm in a bad mood. I want you to agree with me. I want you to say, yes, you're totally right. She doesn't get you at all. And shut up otherwise. This is what she needs from him. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad that he speaks his mind, right? And she isn't mad. She's just like, oh, you fucking idiot. Come on. You could give me that one. And it's like, she tries to understand you, and I think she does more than try, but that's not what she wants to hear in that moment, right? Because they had a fight. And you can't just turn it around on her, because then she's gonna feel super bad about herself, and that's not the way to go either. Because she's already feeling bad. And they greet one another, and she gets alluded to that he actually repaired the staff. And there we go. And 𝐏𝐢𝐏 says something, I don't think he's 100% correct. I think the perception people have of Frieren, even back then when Fan was still young, when Frieren was still trying to figure out a lot of stuff, they still had the wrong perception about Frieren. Like I said last time, there was 20 years in between her leaving, saying so long when 𝐏𝐢𝐏 died, and her meeting up with 𝐏𝐢𝐏 when he had taken in Fan at this point. There was a lot of time in between there, and she started to understand humans way better. I mean, she did it already with Lam. She started understanding humans, and with 𝐏𝐢𝐏 she understood them better and better. But obviously, there's some things that take very long time to realize, and to really maybe stop lying to yourself and whatnot. And yes, she's still awkward around people sometimes, and doesn't entirely always figure people out, or has that insecurity in there where she's like, well, I don't know what to do with that because it feels like maybe I'm wrong and I don't want to be wrong on that. But one thing that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 is right at, he's wrong about maybe Frieren not understanding emotions, all of that. Even though, I mean, obviously, of course, I do give him that. She has a hard time, even if she does understand them to a degree now, and does understand them eventually, but she maybe has a hard time picking them up initially, right? And having a good sense for it. It's like with her dropping the magic detection for a second when she defends. That's a thing she was never good at. But one thing he is absolutely right about, and that is that she will worry and care just as much, maybe even more, because she is aware of the fact that she isn't all that good at it. And I think this is what Fan can appreciate about her. And she was about to say that, like, about yesterday, and she's like, never mind. And honestly, should have just said it. I mean, maybe this is one of those moments where Frieren's like, I know what you want to say. But maybe it's not. And you could have said it, and now you didn't say it. And now the moment is gone, right? Now we get into this. I don't know what to do. Stop being a fucking idiot, serie. Stop being an elitist, okay? I mean, she might be right about some of them. Like 𝐴𝐦𝐏, for example, it does feel like she's emotionally, at the very least, not mature enough to be a first-class mage, right? We do have some people passing just by mere circumstance. 𝐴𝐦𝐏, 𝐷𝐴𝐴, right? These people wouldn't have made it completely if it wasn't for circumstance, if it wasn't for the right conditions, if it wasn't for Frieren. Still, I do believe that this is stupid. You should have just put a normal test in, right? She says like, we lack cooperativeness, and that's nice, but the test takers, they're gonna fucking all die if we do a typical third test. Well, fucking don't do a test that will kill them all. What the fuck are you gonna put down there, right? The first and second test were already incredibly hard, right? Just don't do it. Like, put a proper test down. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. And she's like, I don't want to see that. It's all Frieren's fault. I'm stuffy, I'm grumpy, This is the episode of grumpy people. Richter is grumpy, Fan is grumpy, serie is grumpy. She doesn't want to give it to them, and that is what's really bugging me. Maybe she's right about one or two of these people not being ready, right? But I don't think she's right about everyone, and I don't believe Frieren when she says her intuition is always right. No, I don't think so. And he's like, your willfulness is nothing new, Miss Serie. Yes, he's used to her eccentricities, to her, like, ways. And he could tell at a glance that she's suppressing her own mana. Very interesting. I mean, he observed Serie for a long time. Maybe this is how he did notice. And there's Falsch. I do wonder what he's all about, right? Is his name meaning wrong? Or fake, possibly, right? And she's like, it's useless, right? She did it to defeat demons, and only for that, and she would have been better off just training her skills. And I don't know. I think it's clever. Work smarter, not harder. And I think it's unconventional and it's okay to do it. And it works. It works for her. It's very interesting how 𝐏𝐬𝐏 keeps rejecting everything that comes from Frieren and also in proxy from Flamme in a way, but also behind puts her own stamp on it. And that is what I was saying like last episode. I was like, in some kind of fashion she follows Flamme, and she's like probably sentimental and emotional about what Flamme created, maybe even proud of what her student managed to do, but at the same time she wants to put her own kind of self-centered stamp on it, and that is what I see. She's very stubborn in that way. Things are supposed to be a certain way, and this is how they're properly, right? How they properly are supposed to be, how I want them to be, and that's how it's gonna be because I'm older than you. Kind of represents some kind of attitude that I don't really like, even if she's possibly one of the strongest or the strongest person alive. I mean, Frieren doesn't care about the first class mage. We see that later on. Very interesting shot and allusion to his former self. Also interesting how she just throws out that line of like, you reach that height, but you're probably gonna die and never gonna fight somebody like Frieren again, even if you could win. That is very cruel to say, in my opinion. There's no empathy in that statement, right? No empathy. There's sympathy maybe a little bit, but not empathy, right? She's just gonna throw that out. And she doesn't care how it weighs on the person. She's like, you're a disappointment. And yes, sometimes these things help, right? To motivate somebody to be like, no, fuck you, I can do it. It's not a good way to motivate somebody, right? Don't use that. Being disappointed in somebody, you should support them. You should say you're proud of them, right? If they do something that you can be proud of, even if it's just a little bit something. Like very, again, like somewhat of that toxic mentality of her being on her high horse. She just calls him in, she's like, you fail. I mean, for Kana, like I said, she kind of justifies that, being like, you can't imagine yourself being a first class mage, right? Imagination is everything. And in a way, from a logic standpoint, it kind of works. And yes, I would say she's not emotionally mature enough for that, to be a first class one, right? But at the same time, I would say that this is an incredible, like, it doesn't hold up to all of the logical standards that you could put it up to. And that is kind of making me sad, because it means that a lot of people just get rejected because she doesn't want to. She takes a glance at them and she's like, go away. Right? And this is something that I do not like and not appreciate in her. I mean, yeah, he fails, that makes sense. Laufen fails kind of on the balance, yeah. Possibly she would have also failed like an exam. Scharf fails. We haven't seen much of Scharf, not enough of them, but he wasn't clever enough to go through like through Land's kind of thing, right? Where Land was illusion and whatever, and he was like, you didn't pick up very well on like mana and whatever. So he definitely has room for improvement there, right? He has glaring weaknesses. Same with 𝐏𝐬𝐏, who got overwhelmed a couple of times, among other things, by Fan in the first class exam. And then we have Frieren. Interestingly enough, we don't show Wirbel, we don't show Laufen, we don't show Land, we don't show Denken, and we don't show Übel. So I do wonder if they got passed or if they failed. Right? This would be an interesting thing to know, because if she fails them all, I'm like, bruh. If she doesn't, right, if she correctly, then we can argue about maybe her not being wrong. I still think it's a stupid way to test people, just to look at them, be like, you fail, you pass. Because all of the decision making is up to one single individual, and it doesn't matter how much life experience that individual has. It is not a rational test. It is not. There's things, she is a flawed being. She is not a god. She will oversee things. She will misjudge things. Even if people believe her judge of character is perfect or near perfect, she will. So yeah, that's not a logical thing to do, in my opinion. Now, as for Frieren, yeah, this is a personal thing. This is a grudge, and she doesn't let her pass. But Frieren doesn't care, right? She's like, this is the spell that Flam taught you. And Frieren says, look at that. That resentment. Jealousy maybe even, right? If you think about it, jealousy about the close connection between Frieren and Flam. And how close Frieren even today feels and is to Flam. Maybe reminds her of Flam as well, and that is why she, right, looking at her, reminds her of Flam, and that hurts her personally maybe as well, right? And she's like, how truly useless. Have I been putting that on for the whole time? Holy shit, I need to mute that on the repeat. But yeah. She's like, she's mocking her, and then she's like, you don't even stand your ground. No, Frieren is a peaceful mage. First of all, she never cared about the first class mage exam. Maybe that is why 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐬 is gonna fail her, because she's like, you didn't care about this shit, right? You don't care about that, so I'm gonna fail you. Maybe that's kind of one of her reasons, but the other reason is probably because she doesn't see value in somebody who doesn't speak up against competition, right? Somebody who doesn't have the same mindset she has, where she's like very, very headstrong and is trying to impose her will onto other people. And Frieren is more on the other side of the spectrum, where she's trying to be as non-involved as possible in most things. And right, she's like, we all did it together, right? We defeated the Demon King, when she's like, it's hard to believe you defeated him. And like, 𝐈𝐦𝐩𝐿, we all did it. And then she chucks it down to, well, so you had strong allies, that's all. This is a reduction that is not true, right? She reduces her in her mind. She's like, no, so you just had strong allies, right? And Frieren takes that differently. She's taking that as a compliment to her allies and to the amazing thing they did. And she's like, that's right, I was lucky. And interestingly enough, she tells that story. I don't know how to feel about this, that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 met Frieren when he was very young and she made a strong impression on him. I guess they didn't have a personal relationship, they just met by chance, and it was like, oh, hey, but this is a crush, right? Kind of low key, right? So I do wonder how this dynamic, that dynamic clearly changed in that moment, that we are privy to that information. But yeah, the flower spell, she senses the unease and she puts the flower spell that she remembers from Flam, and we do get this beautiful moment in which she looks rather young, in terms of how she's drawn, which is very nice. And he was like, I was taken aback by magic, right? It's beautiful. Look at this face. Look at this face. Look at her face. It's like, fucking get out of here. Leave me the fuck alone with your sappy story. And Frieren is like, you don't get it. But yeah, there is animosity here. But it's interesting. These little things bringing you together, right? The little gestures, and it might not mean anything in the grand context of things, but it is an amazing emotional gesture. It's amazing. It has meaning despite not being something strong and powerful. It's just something beautiful. And by doing that, right, and we go back to what 𝐏𝐢𝐏 said earlier, change somebody's life, right, even if it's just through a little thing. And maybe he was thinking back to that moment right here, when he was telling that to Frieren. Interesting how she left such a strong impression on him that once he was ready to go and go out into the world and actually make a name for himself, he was like, I want this kind of person to be our mage. Because this is the kind of magic, this is the kind of approach and attitude, the kind of mindset I need in my team, I need in my family, in my party. He's like, you're intending to fail, Frieren, and she's really gleeful, she's gloating here, she's like, she will exceed your expectations. And 𝐏𝐢𝐏 looks at her, she's like, whatever, right? You're wrong. Go home, riposo, L, whatever. But she's wrong, right? The second she's like, she's frozen in place and misjudges the situation completely for a second or two. And she asks her, what do you see? He's like, fluctuations. And she's the first human to actually see it properly, right? In her, right? Because Lennon saw it in Frieren, apparently. For whatever reason, because apparently 𝐸𝐧𝐟𝐵 is even better at it, so why did she train the spell if it's so useless in her mind, right? But she's like, be my student, and she's trying to poach her. Holy shit. She's like, look at what we can accomplish. We can rule the galaxy together. But yeah, Frieren just turns around, she's like, nah. I already got a Shisho, right? And this is how it's gonna go. And she's like, okay, you pass. I'm not gonna ignore that you're super, super, super promising, but I don't like it. Yeah, but her intuition is always right, is it? I don't think so, but, you know. At least maybe most of the time. The argument, right, the thing was so impressive that she couldn't do anything but say, okay, you pass. And we have the little flower petal. Flower petal, interestingly enough, right? Flower, spell, flum, whatever, it all rhymes. Falling on the water surface. Not even making a ripple. Very interestingly enough. Fan sure as hell is making a ripple. That's it, it's the penultimate episode. People passed, people failed. I do wonder how we're gonna close this. There's gonna be a tease for the next season. What's gonna await us? I heard, like, in the background, we didn't see any dialogue lines, interestingly enough, but all we heard were celebration noises, so very interesting. Maybe we're all gonna meet up, we're gonna be like, okay, let's throw a party for all the test takers. And then go our separate ways, and maybe we meet again, and whatever. Much like with all the other characters we've met along the way and kind of parted ways with, right? Aizen's still alive. Sign is out there somewhere. Whatchamacallit, Kraft is still out there. Yeah. Amazing episode as always, right? A little bit more of a calm one, right? And a lot more subtle things in between, but that's what I love. Like, sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's that way. And I take it all. If you did like this video, I do hope you subscribe and give me a like on this one as well. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon, yada yada yada. There's also a Buy Me a Coffee now, which I hopefully at this point have put into my like YouTube About section, so you can check that out if you're not a fan of Patreon. Other than that, I do hope I see you on the finale of Frieren, and I do hope you have a wonderful time.